All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Stavros Katsantonis. We're on Behind the Visor, another great episode. We got former CFL player Kito Poblah. Kito, my man, thanks for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, bro. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, no problem. Well, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Obviously, we know kind of you played in the CFL back in, I think, was 2011 when you got drafted. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Exactly right. Yeah. I was born in Montreal. I was raised in South Florida. And then I went to school at Central Michigan University, played there for 5 years, and then ended up getting drafted by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2011.
Okay, that's what's up. And then
Yeah.
how long did your CFL career last for?
So I was playing in the league for 5 years. So I played 3 years with the Bombers and two with the BC Lions.
Okay, so you beat the average, right? I think what is it? Most pro careers are at that 2.5, three
Couple
year
years,
marks.
yeah. For me, it was when it was time. It was time. It was. I had got my master's in business administration from Central Michigan.
Okay.
So when I was at a crossroads, to be honest, where I was like, you know what, should I continue playing? I had some opportunities, but I felt it was time for me to continue doing what I guess it was involvement. And plus, I had battled some injuries early in my career in the CFL, and as I was trying to just go forward, I guess my heart wasn't in it. And then I was
Hmm.
like, you know what? I always do everything I do 100%. So I didn't want to go out there and not be there fully for my teammates. So I was like, you know what? Let me start my programs and start building and helping the future. So that's what I did.
Yeah, man. We both know that the football is it's a violent, it's a dangerous game. We know what we sign up for
Yeah,
at the end of the day, and that's part of the business, right? As we say,
yeah,
injuries are part of the game, and
yeah,
sometimes you go through some that you can't really not necessarily. I won't say you can't overcome, but it makes you wonder, like, okay, like you said, you had your business background and stuff like that, and
yeah.
lining things up. It's like, okay, I might have to make a decision, right?
Yeah,
So
man, exactly. Cut a lot shorter than I wanted it to, believe me, but it was what it was, and I'm really happy where I'm at, man. I've been out the game for about 10 years now, and I've run a few businesses. I've ran some training programs. Those programs have developed into interprovincial teams where I bring players from Manitoba down to the States and I help them get scholarships to play in American football.
wow.
And those players started moving on to college, and so it kind of the evolution of me becoming a sports agent was kind of just in the craft of what I started when I started training. So I've always tried to develop the programs and the things that I've done off the field to always been geared towards Canadian athletes, getting them down to the States. Because when I came up here, man, and I know a little bit about you too, California guy. I
Yep.
actually am eager to hear about your story too, because I feel like you kind of understand the system on both sides as well. So us guys who understand the system on both sides understand there's a gap in a lot of areas here that if you're able to bridge it,
Yep.
you can help a lot more players to actually get to the level that we've been able to play at.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely different, right? Like I guess my upbringing was like you were saying. I was born and raised in California. My dad is my Canadian parent. He was born and raised in Edmonton. Played junior
Yeah,
football there. Played for the University of
cool.
Calgary Dinos, and then ended up coming back down to Bakersfield where I was born. He went to JUCO there before he went to
Great.
Calgary, but yeah, and then kind of my story ended up going to UBC. I didn't have any scholarship offers coming out of high school. Small kid. I was 5'9", about a buck 60 coming out of high
Yeah.
school, so I just didn't really have any decent looks. I would say I had a preferred walk
Mhm.
on at UW and was thinking about going and taking it. And then my dad was like, "Oh, well, what about playing up in Canada?
Yeah.
There's this college that I went to at University of Calgary. There's UBC where I think he was keeping tabs, and that's how Blake Nill had just moved over to
Nice.
UBC. So
Yeah.
they sent my film there, and the rest was history. Learned the Canadian game, got thrown in the fire, and just made a name for myself. And now,
That's awesome.
going into my 6th year in the CFL, all,
And
all
you're killing it, man. Honestly,
thank you,
dog. You're one of my favorite players to watch, man. I
thank
really
you.
love watching you play, dude, for real.
No, yeah, it's been great, man. I think the biggest blessing for me was being able to come up here and play in Canada, even initially on when I didn't really want to, right? I think there's definitely well, you'll know this, but there's definitely a stigma behind playing Canadian football or just football
Yeah.
in Canada in general.
Right.
But
Hmm.
I will say I was awakened very quickly when I got
Yeah.
onto UBC campus. learning just the Canadian game, and then realizing that, oh, these are D1 athletes that are up here too.
Dude.
They're just like me. They just didn't get the opportunity, didn't get the, you know, the exposure, and
Yeah.
we're all playing the same game. So it was very eye opening, a big blessing, and yeah, to see where I'm at now, and hopefully continuing to go as long as I can. But yeah, taking it day by day. It's like I said, it's been a true blessing to play football up here in Canada.
That's amazing, man. And to be honest, like when it comes to that, like, a few of my posts, earlier, the past couple of weeks have really just been on the parody of
Mhm.
it's not like people are not aware
Right.
of the game up here. And to be honest, a lot of Canadians are not even aware of their own skill level of being able to play down there. And it's like
100%.
unless you've been down there, you can say exactly what you said. Like, damn, like these guys could be playing D1 too. Like,
Yeah.
like unless you've been on that side, it's the only way you can actually see it in reverse, which is pretty funny that you said that.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So, like, tell me a little bit about your. I know you were saying you grew up. Did you grew up in Montreal and then moved down
Yeah,
to
so I
South
was
Florida?
born and raised. So I was born in Montreal, and I lived there until I was 5, and then from there I lived in Miami, like a place called Pembroke Pines, which is like right
Okay.
outside Miami, in between Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And yeah, I was first of all a baseball player first, so I used to
Oh
travel
wow.
playing baseball. My cousin Carl, who has basically the same story as me, played in the CFL. He played a little longer than I did. He played with the Bombers and the Alouettes. We both grew up down there playing baseball, basketball, and football. And to be honest, like I wanted to be a basketball player. The only
Hmm.
reason why I went into football is because my junior year, my cousin Carl already had a scholarship to Ole Miss, and I was like, man, I can't go out like I don't know what I'm gonna do after high school,
Yeah.
so I need to go somewhere. Like my dog is leaving me, right?
Yeah.
So it was like I was just like, all right, well, he's a star running back, really prominent running back in South Florida at the time, and um, I just remember going to my coach and I said, Coach, like, let me be the quarterback. And my coach looked at me like, what makes you feel like you're gonna be the quarterback? You haven't thrown a ball. And you don't even freaking play football like that. You just play
Yeah.
basketball. So I was like, you know what, whatever. So I proved to him like I went in that spring, showed that I could be that leader, and essentially like I didn't going into my senior year. I only had played probably one high school football game, but I had played in
Hmm.
high school. I had played football, you know, in my younger ages, right? But it's
Okay.
like not. I hadn't played in a long time, and so going into my senior year, we ended up playing a team called Flanagan, and
Okay.
at the time, Flanagan had a senior class of over 5,000 people. It's in the world's Guinness record for the longest senior ceremony that has ever been. I think it was
Wow.
like over like 13 to 14 hours. Crazy ass ceremony. So these guys, we were playing them, and it's the first time we played them. We only had a small school, and they were a huge giant. And at that time, it's our first game of the year. And on the second play of the game, I was an option quarterback, so I didn't even run. I mean, I didn't have to throw. I just ran that ball.
Yeah.
Second play of the game, I take one to the crib, 68 yards. And then next year, as we come up, 28 yarder, right up. So we're up 14-0 in like the first couple minutes. And like the
Yeah.
whole entire team is jacked and everything. We end up winning that game. I ended up getting MVP. And Brian Kelly, who was at LSU last year, who just got fired for
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin, was in the stands actually looking at a guy on the other team. He was at
Yeah.
Central Michigan, which is my alma mater right there.
Yep.
And he was a head coach for that, and he offered me a full ride scholarship the next week. Came to my house
Wow.
and everything. So that's how it was.
Wow. That's great. That goes to show you never know who's. Probably a little bit different nowadays with huddle and stuff like that, but still, you never know who's
Yeah,
watching the tape. They might not be there watching you. Could be
right.
some, but you make a play, it could
Yeah,
be game changer. So then from there you
yeah.
went to Central Michigan, and then did you do any like CFL combine stuff or anything like that coming out of
No,
Central Michigan?
so the time I was coming out from Central Michigan University, I was it was 2011, and I was actually looking to go to the league. And
Hmm.
basically that year there was a lockout, so I didn't even
Oh man.
um, my like, for my the CFL wasn't really on my radar like that. My cousin Carl had gone up here. I was
Right.
like, yo, I think I can get to the league. My agent was like, yo, I think we can make it. So I had calls from the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins, and they were like, "Hey, look, we're gonna pick you up in the seventh, like close to sixth or seventh round if we can
Mm-hmm.
pick you up." But essentially, that didn't happen, and because it was a lockout, CBA rules were you can't be in contact with the players.
Mm,
So I was like, well, damn, like, okay, I'm not sure if they're even gonna have a season. So
right.
my agent was like, yo, go up to Canada, go play there a year or two, and then come back down. You could be on a veteran contract. Where guys, like the Allens and the Lamar Jacksons, they outplay their rookie contracts for
Yeah.
like 2-3 years. So he was like, man, we can shortcut that by going to the CFL and coming back down.
Yeah.
And then to be real with you, my first year I came up here, training camp, I'm destroying that shit. Like I was killing it, dog. Like I was
Yeah.
doing my thing. First game, man, I get hurt. I blew my PCL and
Oh
ended
man.
up sitting out for 8 weeks. And then we came back, played Saskatchewan, had a really great game, had 10 catches over a few hundred some yards, and I was feeling good again because I was just coming back. The next game after that,
Yeah.
I freaking tear my clavicle, man,
Oh
and I
no.
had two. And we ended up going to the Grey Cup that year. This is when Swaggerville and Odell Willis and all those boys were.
Yep.
We ended up losing to my boy Andrew Harris,
Oh
who I
man.
ended up playing with after. But yeah, we
Yeah.
ended up losing to those guys in the Grey Cup.
Wow. Wow. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a story right there. I mean,
yeah,
shoot, who would have thought? I mean, yeah, like you said, playing against Andrew Harris and all that sort of stuff, and then becomes your teammate later on down the
yeah,
road. And I played against Andrew Harris a
yeah.
couple years ago before he retired. But man, that's crazy. So then from there, did you get straight into kind of the training game agent stuff? Is that how you kind of got
Yes.
into that?
So actually, when I was here, I was finishing up my master's. So I was actually my rookie year, and I was finishing up my master's at the same time. And for my dissertation for my master's, it was either go study underneath the business or create your own. So I was like, all right, let me just create a training program. It was a theory, and I was
Right.
like, you know what? I see a gap. And at this time, it was funny because I was watching Brady Oliveira
Yep.
actually play, and he was with the Oak Park Raiders. And I remember watching him play. I'm like, dog, they got some players out here, man. Like
Hmm.
I was like, dog, they got some studs. So um, I started training the players. That's how I started. I started
Yep.
training players, and then 3-4 years ago, and I'm in my career, I'm still training players on my off season time.
Yep.
But then, like, what happens was I was realizing a lot of the players they'd get developed, but then they would go back to coaches.
Yep.
Like, and honestly, a lot of them are volunteers or dads and stuff.
Right.
Because I was training players who were 9 to 13, so the young
Okay.
kids. They were excelling during the off season, but then during the season, a lot of the technique and a lot of things that we taught them were kind of going downhill, to be honest.
Right.
And they were better than the other guys, but it was like, man, you still gotta keep low. You made the tackle, but you ain't low enough.
Yeah.
You're getting praise for things that like we can be like, yeah, you know what, you made the play, but you could do
Yeah.
slightly better. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Where
Yeah.
they were just getting claps for doing the play, I'm like, yo, you're doing great,
Yeah.
but like you gotta tweak these little things, which is the things that we were working on. So then
Right.
that's when I developed a program called the Manitoba Selects, where I started taking these players, the same kids I was training, and I did American football,
Hmm.
and we ended up going to Texas in 2017, and yeah, like you know what, nobody was really happy that I was bringing that team down there because everybody thought we were gonna get our ass whooped, and we ended up winning some games, and our
Really?
boys started playing good. You could see like their little bodies are like they're feeling really good. They're coming back and they
Yeah.
started dominating. And now most of my class from that group, I have two kids who had full ride scholarships to the states, and I have
Wow.
a lot, and most of them are in youth sports right now playing. So,
Right.
and that was about 9-10 years ago.
Right. Right. Wow. That's
Yeah,
see, and I think that's the thing. Like a lot of people think that, Canadians can't play football or aren't
yeah,
good enough to compete. But I think, at least in my view of it, and I'll let you share yours in a second here, but I think my view on it, especially from when I played Team Canada, once I came up here, I was at UBC, I was on like the U19 team, and we went down to, I think, Texas to play
yeah.
like the U19 USA team. I think like Miko Hardman was on that
Hold
team.
on, were you on the team? Was Coach Burrell on that team?
Potentially. I don't remember all the coaches that were on there.
What what year was this?
2015, or sorry, it'd been 2016, like January of
Okay, then it
2016.
was too early. Okay.
Yeah, so I went down with them for that. I mean, Coach just kind of was like, "Hey, do you want to go play this Team Canada deal down in I think we're playing at AT&T Stadium. So, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
heck yeah, like go play in an NFL stadium. I'd love to do that.
Yeah. Cool.
And then once I started seeing, oh, like it's Team USA, you got all these guys that are 5-star, 4-star guys that are committed to all these, big name schools, right? Like Mecole Hardman plays in the NFL now. He played at Georgia, was a national champion. The late Dwayne Haskins was the quarterback for that team, among a ton of other dudes. One dude actually ended up playing with Voshawn Joseph. He played at University of Florida, which is kind of a side tangent. But in going down there, I mean, we had a ton of athletes that were on the Team Canada team that, the whole week we're practicing, guys are making plays. And then we kind of get to the game and, we hung with them the whole first half. Like the whole first half, I think they only scored, 6 points or something like that, or 7 points, and then blocked a field goal. And I think the biggest difference was like the confidence level of everyone on Team Canada. Like for me, I was out there showing out because I was like, I know I played against dudes like this, like, because I came up in that high school system in California, played against a lot of, my high school quarterback is Jordan Love. Chris Barnes was one of my linebackers. He's in the NFL now. But I think just having that confidence, like, oh, like I'm not out of place here.
Yep.
But all week in those practices, like my teammates on Team Canada, they're tearing it up. They're making big plays. And then I think in that game, when you start to realize that, oh, this dude's going to Florida, this dude's going to this SEC school, it can sometimes get to you, right? And I think that's where they started to separate from us. Was like, I think as a collective, and mind you, it's only 1 week of practice getting ready for a game, so it's not like you have a whole training camp and all that. But I think that's one of the big things is the confidence level of some of these kids, that if they just have the confidence level, they can compete with anyone, right?
I love where you're going with this, man. I truly love where you're going with this because it's a belief system. Yep. I truly believe that it's a belief system. At the end of the day, when you have the resources and you have the same amount of time and it doesn't really matter who you are. The system is a system. You know what I'm saying? The system is the system. Like you said, you went to high school and you play with guys like Jordan Love. That's awesome. And you're playing in a space where it's like, okay, this is a competitive environment. And you also believe in that environment because everybody there is like, yo, we're going to go to the top. Yeah. And the irony of what you're saying, and this is what I see, because I don't see this in hockey up here. Like hockey, we already think, despite the loss that we just had with the U.S., I see the kids all the time. They're like, we're the best in the world. We're the best in the world. And it's like, at the end of the day, their confidence in how they approach it and what they believe is the sole difference. And you know this as a competitor, man. If you ever go with a hint of doubt or a hint of anything, then one, you feel like you probably, a lot of the times it's just your preparation. Yeah. And the only difference that I feel like the Americans have done, and they've done this very well, they've made the perception of the imagery going to Florida, going to this, going on that, way bigger than it really is. Yeah. And then it's like you're more intimidated by the legend of something rather than what it really is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Like you can go down to some of these events and you just hear the name and it's like you said, it's like that person is glowing on the field and they may only be 5'11", 180 pounds, but sometimes because of that image, they get portrayed in your head as like, oh, this dude's like 6'3", 220 and runs a 4.2 in high school. So I think it definitely starts there. But I think like from your experience, like where do you think, I guess, grassroots football in Canada is falling short right now? I think it's really in the resources, to be honest. Like, when we grew up in the States, like even in your high school, was your coach paid? Yeah,
he was.
There you go. So like at the end of the day, a lot of these coaches here, they're not paid at the high school level. They're mostly teachers. So what happens is they are doing this extracurricular, and most of them don't understand that the extracurricular going, like having your team go into the weight room, doing the extra stuff, during the off season is what's going to actually help your team, for the end season. A lot of the times people don't understand that you win in the off season. This, like you're a pro, like we win in the off season. If you're trying to get good in the season, it's already too late. It don't work that way. You know what I'm saying? So it's the off season work. But the thing is, they don't get paid for it. And then at the same time, they're really asked to do things. And then also the structure, right? The structure of our system, in my opinion, doesn't really work because one, we have very limited indoor space. So like obviously it's wintertime all the time here. And essentially for us to get out on the field, it's not like you can just go out like in California or Florida
Yeah.
where it's like my little nephew right now, who's 5 years old, is already playing like his third flag football season, like right now. Like, and
Yeah.
they're like doing it all the time. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like it's embedded in the culture
In
of
the
what they're
culture, yeah.
doing. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to hockey here, I always compare it to football in the States because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like hockey here, from a very young age, it's the same culture, it's the same intensity, it's the same effort that they put into it. People invest money into it.
Right.
So you have all of these private schools and these prep schools and these types of things that we see in the States for football. And I think
Right.
essentially that is one of the fundamental aspects of why I actually started the Manitoba Selects, because I was like, you know what are we doing for about the months from November all the way to February to April? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing those months,
Yeah. Yeah. One, there's definitely, I always say when there's a will, there's a way, right? Like there's definitely the barrier of entry of, like you said, the field access and things like that, right? I mean, even for us here, I mean, I'm in Hamilton full time in the off season, and it's not that there isn't indoor fields here. It's just to get on there get the time.
Exactly.
They're usually booked out by other sports,
Yep.
and they're usually not even football, right? It's like soccer or
Yes,
these other sports usually. So I think that is one of the biggest things. And then like you're saying, like being able to be in the States and play football year round. Like I know, like me growing up in high school, we had like a 0-period strong body that was built in by the football team. So you have your regular school that starts at 8 a.m. I'm pretty sure we had strong body class, which was a class. Like we got a credit for it. You got a grade for it.
Nice.
It was coached by the head football coach, and all the football players had to do it. And it was year round, and it started at, I think, 6 a.m., was the lift, or 5:30, something like that. And then in the off season, you were still doing your workouts. If you were doing another sport, you kind of got exempt if you were playing that day or if you were playing the day before. But other than that, like, you're working out every day in the off season, and then once spring comes, you're doing the 7-on-7. You're getting out on the field and being coached. But yeah, like you said, that's a huge barrier. Is like the coaches not being paid at the high school level, so they don't feel like they're valued enough to spend their extra time to coach these kids, and then two, they're usually working other jobs, right? If they have to be, if they're they don't have the time to coach the kids. So that's, I think, where a lot of it can fall off. And I've always tried to think, like, man, how do you get more guys that have played in the CFL back? I mean, doing what things like you're doing, right? Where you're coaching these kids and you're giving back that knowledge that you have, right? Where you've grown up in the States, and you have the understanding to help pass on the information to the next generation, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of times it's being creative, man. It's one thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have to learn how to create your value in different ways. And I think you're doing a great job of branding yourself, bro. Honestly, I look at what you do, man. You're doing a terrific job, and I feel like a lot of CFL players don't understand what you're doing to the capacity of, being able to brand yourself as who you are, to be able to transfer those values to the next aspects of your life. Because what you're doing is essentially you're putting yourself in position not just to be, you're leveraging your football career, which is intelligent. Obviously, it's smart. You're on TV, TSN, use that thing.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you're using your creativity, your personality to be able to become approachable. So where, you do have brands and you do have people who want to work with you because you understand how to leverage that. And I think a lot of times we don't really understand the importance of branding ourselves and the importance of being able to, and I think that's what I'm saying. Like, we haven't branded football. Like, what's branded here is hockey.
It's hockey.
You know what I'm saying? So like when we get guys like ourselves who come on the football scene and understand how to brand ourselves and understand the sport, of course, then you get sponsors, you get people who want to be a part of that. And that's where, from that aspect, that's kind of where I felt more responsible to come in. I'm like, you know what, from what I've done and where I've been, I can actually be able implement and use my resources to actually add value. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think the branding thing is a big deal for sure, especially, when you have that pro athlete status. Like, that's what kids want to see, right, at the end of the day. And they're not gonna stumble upon your profile if you're not, being active or doing those sort of things. Yeah, during the season, you make the plays, you get on TV, you do those sort of things. Like, okay, yeah, you'll get pushed out there, but I think even that isn't enough. Obviously, it's in season. It's difficult. The main thing's got to be the main thing, right? It's got to be football focused.
1000%.
You got to give your all to that, because once you lose that, it's over for that part of your life, right? So I think in the off season, when you're doing these different things, or even in the season, if you can find, right, we know the time commitment of playing football. There's a couple hours that are left in the day once you get the workout in, the film, the practice, the extra things that you need to do to be elite. There's always time for it. It's not for everybody, but I think it would be good for, our top superstars in the league to be out there on social media doing their things. And I, if you ask me back, even when I was at UBC, hey, after you play a couple years in the CFL, you have the opportunity to be on TSN and on the panel, all that sort of stuff. Like, I definitely would not have believed you, because like maybe it was something that was on my radar to be on TV and stuff like that, or just even having that opportunity. But like, I never would have thought, I'm hearing TSN saying, hey, we want you to come on for Friday Night Football and be on the panel. And like, do a live hit, and then that follows up with doing a live hit at Grey Cup when I was out there for that time in Winnipeg. And it's just like, man, if I never did any of the things that I've been doing to showcase that, yes, I'm a football player, but like, I'm more than that, then I wouldn't have had that opportunity. But yeah, it's definitely you learn stuff every day, right? You learn different techniques, no different than football, right? You got to work out, you got to learn the fundamentals of it all, and the biggest thing is you got to be consistent at it, right? If you don't show up every day, then you won't be able to see that payoff. It might not be quick, it might not be in the short term, but long term, like you said, when
100%.
when football is done and gone, if you can set up that pivot when it's all said and done, I think that's definitely key. But I think obviously we know it's not that Canadians are lacking talent. Like, I think even in the CFL, I think right now we have the most talent across the board of Canadian playmakers on the field, on special teams, on offense, on defense, and then even down south of the border, more Canadians than ever in the NCAA, in the NFL, getting drafted. Is it more about, is it the exposure? Is it the development? Is it just flat out we're not just getting the opportunity because of where they're at? Like, what do you think is, if you could pinpoint? I think
it's a little bit of everything you said, like, right? Like, at the end of the day, there's a stigma. Like, there's a stigma. And the crazy part, there's a stigma even amongst the Canadians. Like, the Canadians even have, like, it's like almost an in-group thing. So, like, the out-group is saying, like, and then the in-group is also saying, it's like you can say a kid from Winnipeg versus a kid Toronto. That kid's like, man, he's from Winnipeg. Like, nah, he ain't good. Like, it's like, it's even within the group. So, at the end of the day, with what you're saying, like, yes, it starts with development from the very beginning, at the very grassroots level. That's foundationally where I think it starts. But then even with those guys who do start late, the exposure aspect is tough too, because not everybody's like Israel Donajay, who went to University of Manitoba, who's a guy who's an African brother who came straight from the sticks, and now he's just dominating dudes.
David Onyemata was a dude I played against too when I was at UBC.
Exactly. David Onyemata, like, those dudes, like, at the end of the day, like, those dudes are kind of like they're guys that you don't see often. And
you're genetic freaks.
You know what I'm saying? That's just how it works. But for the most of us, we really got to compete on a different level. Like, and I'm not saying those guys don't compete, but I'm saying just based off of, you can't teach size. You can't teach. There's certain things you cannot teach. Yeah. We know about the eyeball test. Coach looks at you, he's like, all right, if he's big enough, he's like, okay, I like that guy. Yeah. And he already has a bias. He's already thinking like, okay, I have some things I can do with him. But if we're regular guys like us, I'm 6'2", I play at 210. Yeah, I'm a pretty big receiver, but still at that point, they're gonna want to see my speed. They want to see my physicality. They're gonna want to see different things, right? Yeah. So when it comes to our players, the issue is, if you're not a lineman, because we do produce a lot of great linemen, I think,
Yeah.
out of this country that go down south. Um, and because a lot of them are just big farm boys.
Yeah.
And so like they like that. But then
Yeah.
when you're a skill guy, that's where I feel like it's a challenge, because now you really have to be able to put yourself out there. You have to be able to go play versus guys who are supposedly better than you and go whoop their ass. Like you have to. Like these are the things, if you're trying to get to the next level from out of here, you have to be around those guys, or else you're just going to be grouped with all the other guys who are already don't believe they can do that. And then two, when the coach sees your film, he's going to be evaluating the guys, the players that you're playing against. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the exposure competition, I do feel like we lack that, which is why, like I said, I go back to my Manitoba Selects program, because what my whole entire focus is that you kill it in high school football here, you kill it in club football here. So now let's go show those scouts you can do the same thing in Texas. You can do the same thing in Florida. You a dog. You a dog from here, anywhere where you just a dog. So like, that's basically been my whole entire concept and principle of why I started that program and why we're still running and we're developing in-season programs now. And even why I even ended up buying a bus for the program. Like I ended up buying a bus, getting my bus license and I drive my team around, because I truly believe, I truly believe, man, like I seen Andrew Harris, I seen Brady Oliveira, I seen Nick Demski, I see these guys, I'm like, dog, y'all some studs, bro. Like y'all could have. And Brady did play down south for college, but it's like Nick and Andrew, Enoch Mwamba's another guy. I'm like, dog, y'all some, like my boy Shamon Chambers. I see all these Canadian guys who are like straight dogs, who are like good, and I'm like, what is it here that's not allowing that to happen?
Right.
So,
so do you think that's more
got my foot involved.
To your point, right? Like you talk about the Demskis. I mean, a guy that I've covered many times and seems to always make the play, right? Or the Brady Oliveira, who's some would say he's probably the best running back in the league right now for the last 3 years. And again, Andrew Harris, like all these names. Is it like for kids that are in those situations, right, where they're in the high school level across Canada, like is it playing for these, like if they don't have the ability to, like you or me, to go down to the States and play high school football down there and live that lifestyle, is it finding these select teams? I don't know how many. I've heard of the Manitoba Selects. I've heard Sask. I've heard Edmonton has one. Is it these kids trying to get on those teams, and then like are your kids that have gotten scholarships, like have they gotten offered like at these games that you played at, or has that gotten them the exposure and then a coach follows up, sees the film?
So essentially how it works, okay? It's where we basically package the players, because in the States it's almost like you have an opportunity to be at a game. Like I said, like I was at a game, I played very well, I got a scholarship. Boom. These programs are more set up to be portfolio. So like, okay, you can show a coach, hey, I have my film from my in-season program, high school. Now I have my film to match exactly what you see me doing, what I'm doing over here. And now you see me doing down south. Nothing's changed. I'm the guy you think I am, because I am that guy. So this is what that builds, that credibility stack. It's a credibility stack. And a lot of these players that have gone to our programs, actually they end up having to, unfortunately, go down to prep schools in the States, because those are where those opportunities are, where they are able to play the kids who are supposedly better than them, and they just show that they're better, and they get those opportunities. So from our programs themselves, they get the opportunities to get looks at and actually get the conversation going. And essentially what we do is we get those relationships going. And based on where the coach is saying, hey, look, I need more film, or I need to see this guy in my camp, we set them up accordingly. But that credibility stack is what we do. And that's how we've been able to position ourselves differently. It's because at the end of the day, and I don't want to throw shade on any other programs, but when you're running programs in the summer, dead middle in the summer, that's when the kids should be going to those college camps. That's when those kids should be going to those things that those coaches see, like, okay, I think that guy, I like that guy, and now let me see him, let me see his 40, even though I think the 40 is whatever. And let me just go see all these
Unless
little
you're
things.
A 4-2, then it's different. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But let me see him compete in front of me and see how he reacts. and I can have more trust factor on that. So it just helps with the credibility of our players in terms of their film that they're producing and giving out to these U.S. coaches for them to be able to get this money from them, the scholarships.
Right. So, like, what do you think the biggest thing is for parent? Like, I know me growing up, when I was telling my parents, I'm like, hey, we got to go to this camp, we got to do this and that.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think is the biggest thing for parents to know across Canada? Obviously, not just in Manitoba, but I know that's where you're working specifically. But what do you think parents should know? Because it's such a confusing thing, right? Like, you hear your kids say, oh, I need to go to this college camp or that college camp. Like, what do you think is the best things for them to be putting their kids in at the same time? Not, because obviously we know a lot of people, money is a precious thing, right? So they're not wasting their money and making sure that they're putting their kid in the best situation possible, moving forward to get them a potential scholarship down south, or at the very least a scholarship to a Canadian institution up here to play football and continue playing.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, man. I think a lot of times parents and even the players don't do the first thing I always recommend is do your homework. Like understand that if you want to play at like Alabama, you have to be like 6'8", 315 at maybe age 14 or age 15. Like, it's
being realistic with yourself.
You got to understand the size of who you are and the type of player you are based on the school you're trying to go to. And I think too often there isn't enough guidance in just that area. So you get kids who go out to these camps or even to these programs that just don't know where they fit because, in my opinion, the directors or the advisors don't set them up correctly and be like, okay, look, you're a 5'8" quarterback and you're a junior, you're really good, but maybe you should look at going to safety. Maybe you should look at a new position, because if you want to push your athletic threshold to the max, then we have to start understanding how those coaches and those crews look, right? At the end of the day, the game is political, but the game is also pretty logical at the same time, because if you understand what the coach wants, because you just look at the roster and you'll understand what the coach wants. But if you don't fit that mold, then you got to understand how to position yourself. So when we're talking about, going to these camps, for me, it's like going to camps is cool. Going to camps it helps you identify where you are amongst the whole entire group. But going to the camp with no plan is, in my opinion, foolish. It's understanding having an actual strategy in terms of, okay, where do I place amongst, guys who are in my position at my size and weight? Let's start there. The eye test. Boom. Okay, cool. Let's talk about speed. Boom. My playmaking ability. I might be a dog. All right, cool. But who are you playing?
Yeah.
That has to matter too. Yeah. So then, all right, now we go to the place like, all right, well, I know these things, and now I got to go to camps and programs that match. Right. And then I had to also analyze if those programs and those camps will actually get me to where I'm trying to go. So a lot of times there's so many variables, but the parents and the kids don't understand even how to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to be honest, this is exactly why I started talking about this, because I started identifying this. It's not even just a football thing now. This is almost an athletic thing in all sports, where parents are really trying to help their kids, and their kids are really talented, but they just don't know where to start. Right. They just really don't know where to start. And a lot of times, so I had to kind of almost reverse engineer it, break it down from my own experience to realize, okay, look, this is a step-by-step process. And it's funny that we're talking about this, because actually I'm coming out with an ebook called Scouting Secrets. Okay. It's basically implementing everything that I'm talking about for any sport, because essentially a lot of times parents just don't know where to start. And the foundation is looking at your kid realistically. Because every parent, and you've heard this, will say their kid is the best. They all say it. They all say it. Coach don't want to hear that, man. Coach don't want to hear that.
He wants to see the results.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Coach want to see the results, man.
Yeah, no, like that's always a thing, right? Like you're trying to balance. Obviously, as a kid when you're playing, right? You feel like you're the best, or at least you should. If you don't feel like you're the best, then we might have other problems, right? But you feel like you're the best. You feel like you should be playing. Maybe you're not. You're taking the steps to get there, obviously. And I think part of that is the training, right? If you aren't starting right now on your team, I think you have to take a hard look at what you're doing daily. So whether that's whatever you're doing isn't enough, right? Like whatever you're doing, and there are some, I would say there's some not opportunities, but there's some instances where, okay, you may be better than the guy in front of you and you're just not playing. It could be political, that type of thing. And we know that's part of the football game. But I think for most kids, if you're not playing or you're not getting the reps that you want, you got to realize there's a lot of work that has to be put in order for you to get your shot. And then once you get your shot, okay, now you got to produce, because the moment you don't produce, then your coach is just like, oh, I'm going to move on to the next kid, right? And I think those windows that you have to show your impact are so small, right? And it's the same at every single level you go to, and the window gets tighter and tighter each level you get to, right? Like high school, you have, a pretty big door to, I guess, make mistakes. And then college, that door shrinks. And then once you get to the pro level like that, it's like a small window. And if you mess up one or two times too many, and that could be the end of your career, right? So I think that's where a lot of kids don't understand, is like, you want the instant, I want to be the best now. But then for just me personally, man, there's so many times where I messed up and didn't play the way I was supposed to, or didn't make the right play, gave up a touchdown or whatnot. And it's like, there's so many things that go into actually being elite. Now, I always pride myself on not making the same mistake twice, which is another thing. But there's like you said, there's so many variables that go into that part of football, right?
Yeah. So then let me ask you this, based on that, in terms of, you being a CFL All-Star, understanding that you were one of the best in the dang whole entire league at your position, what does it take? And this is in almost any sport, to get to there at a professional level.
Yeah. I mean, man, I think the biggest thing has been like the consistency factor. Is just like, I've always believed that, I'm the best. Like, that's always been my thing, is I'm going to be the best player on this field. And the second biggest thing I learned, like, in all that is no matter what my role is, I'm going to be the best at that. So I may not be the starter right now. And that's kind of the mindset I carried myself through the first 2.5, years of my career, where I was just playing special teams and would only get in if someone got hurt, right? Yeah. So it's always like, okay, I'm going to be the best at that, right? My first year, rookie year in the CFL, was, a few special teams, a couple fill-in games where some guys got hurt, just to show that, I belonged on the roster. Yep. And then that second year was like, okay, I know I'm not going to be the starter this year. Second year of my contract, like, I gotta really lock in special teams, because that's my role, that's my job, right? Yep. And I'll never forget our Coach Orlando, always had this photo that he would show to us, and it was a bunch of tigers, and he was like, not everybody can be, the tiger that's in the front, right? So there was like 10 tigers, or some in the front, some in the middle, some in the back, which basically he made an analogy, like, not everybody's going to be an all-star, not everybody's going to be the team captain, this or that, but it's like, we all have our roles and we all can be champions, right? That's that's the age-old thing. And I think for me, it was like, okay, let me just lock in on special teams and be like the most elite special teamer. I ended up leading our team in tackles that year. I think it was 2022.
Let's go.
Yeah, and then I still wasn't being like the most elite pro that I could be. Like, I would probably say I would show up around, our meetings were at 9 a.m. I'd probably show up around 8. Try to get a workout in before. If not, I would do it after practice, and then just do the status quo as far as my practice. My film watching would just kind of be, what we watched in meetings, a little bit outside of the practice facility, but I'd go home and get on the game, right? Like everybody does nowadays. And then my 2023 year, heading into the season, I was like, it was the off season. I think just randomly one day I was like, you know what? Like, let me just try something new and see. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just say, I'm destined to be the special teamer, and this is all I'm going to be, like, amount to being for now. So in my head, I was like, all right, I'm going to try once training camp ends, right? Because you're basically 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. during training camp anyways. But I was like, once training camp ends, like, I'm showing up at the facility at 5:30 every day, getting my workout in, watching film, doing my recovery, all before meetings start at 9, right? So that gives me 3.5, 4 hours to get all this extra work in, catching jugs and machines balls, even though that's not really my job because, like, I'm a DB. Like, I don't need to be catching the ball. But, like, in my head, I was like, okay, if I ever get on the field, like, I need to make sure if I get that one opportunity to catch a football, I got to make sure I catch it. Because if I don't, then the coach is going to be like, oh, well, like, he just got in there. He got a PBU. But if you get a pick, it's like it's game over. So I made that commitment to myself early in the off season, and training camp got over. Wasn't obviously the starter just yet. It's also my contract year, so that was the other big thing. Is it's my third year. Like, they just viewed me as a special teams guy, and that's what I'm viewed as around the league. So it's my job to change that. And I think about the second game in, I think our starting safety tweaked his hammy. I got in. He was going to be down for a couple weeks. Service, played the end of that game. And then I think it was 2 games after that. The next game I started again for my first career, I think, regular season start. Had a decent game, made some tackles. Again, all the while I'm still putting in the work. 5 a.m. every single day. Getting to the stadium, putting in my work, watching the extra film, doing the wide receiver breakdowns to get my extra tips and tricks, route concepts.
Awesome.
Like, again, there's so many things that go into it, and that's what it takes to be elite, not even just to be a pro football player, but just to be elite at what you do. And I think it was the second or third game we were in Edmonton, it was a crazy game. I'll never forget it. It technically was my first career pick, but I did have an interception my first game. It was in 2021 playoff game.
Tell me how to play. What was happening?
Yeah.
Tell me to play. Go ahead.
So
Let's go.
Yeah, so that one was in 2021. I was a rookie. East semifinal versus Montreal.
Yep.
We're in like a 2-man coverage, and I'm weak into the boundary. Backpedaled a little bit. Ball got overthrown. We always say tips and overthrows in the secondary. My boundary half, who's a great vet to me, Cariel Brooks, kind of jumped up for it. It was a snowy day. It skipped off his hands, and I was right there behind him to cover him up. Picked it off and took it for probably like 20 or 30 yards back. So that was my first. I guess they don't count him as a career because it's a playoff, but that was my first pick that I ever had on Trevor Harris, who's just won the Grey Cup. So that's that's a ball I'll save forever. But fast forward to that 2023 year, it's like my third or fourth start in Edmonton. We're playing the Elks, and it was a crazy play. Like, the quarterback definitely shouldn't have thrown it. He scrambles out to his left. I'm in man-to-man coverage on my guy. See my DN kind of go up to basically sack him. He's starting to bring him down to the ground, and I'm pretty close. Like, I'm almost at the line of scrimmage covering my guy. I'm just like, well, let's just move forward just in case he fumbles the ball. In my head, I was like, oh, he might fumble the ball because the way our DN was tackling. As I'm running up, the dude, it's Taylor Cornelius, kind of is getting sacked, is falling to the ground, and then just throws the ball up.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know why. I'll never know why to this day. But it just happened. Just so happened that I was in there. He threw it, went about 3 yards. I'm right there, catch it, and then just take it to the house. My first career pick, I think, was a pick 6.
Okay, so let's ask you the question. So, I love what you just said. So, okay, it's so awesome what you just said. Because there are certain guys who just always find a place around the ball.
Yep.
It's so funny that you just said that, because all of the things that you did way before that even moment. Yeah. Just to even be prepared for that, to even understand, okay, I'm locked in. I already have my guy. I already have confidence in my assignment. I already have confidence. Right. I have confidence in my guy too, who's making a tackle. You see him making a tackle. Yeah. The other guy is just probably panicked. And you're like, all right. And you see the ball, and you were just prepared at that moment to go make the play. It's so cool how you stacked that whole story, because it came. There was so much more that went into that just to even be there. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. No, yeah. It's like I said, it's crazy that was the play that I got my first CFL touchdown, that whole sort of thing. My first pick as a true starter in the league. And then from there, it was so the guy behind me, or the guy in front of me, was still kind of hurt. I got that pick 6, and from there it was kind of just we kind of have to play this guy now because he just made this big play, and you know
let's
And
see
the team
how it
got
goes.
hyped. You're a team player. You already have the team chemistry with the guys. I already know. I can tell by your energy. The team was
Yeah.
hyped. Everybody like, let's go. Like,
Yeah,
I
they
get
were.
it, dude. I
They
get it.
were. So my
Yeah.
guy is actually one of my really good friends today, Tunde Adeleke, who was the starting safety at the time.
Okay.
Learned a ton from him. He ended up
Yes.
coming back. They moved him to field half. I mean,
Nice.
that dude's an athlete. I think
Yeah.
he was one of probably the first Canadians that I've ever really seen be able to play field half or field corner. Now
Right.
it's like they're everywhere, right? Everyone's able to do it. But
Yes.
I remember, I think it was like it was like 3 games in a row. Like I had a pick in every single game. And then from there, that like in my head, I was like, this is probably around Labor Day at this point, right? And
Okay.
I'm just thinking in my head, I was like, okay, like I got like 4 picks right now. I'm making all these plays. My agent's calling me. He's like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing. And, I'm going to make sure you get taken care of in the off season.
Nice.
So I was just like, you know what? Like, again, nothing changed. 5 a.m. I think I was catching like 100 jugs balls a day in the mornings. And my strength and conditioning coach, Marcellus Bowman, who I don't know,
my guy.
you may have played with him in Winnipeg, actually.
Marcelo, that's my guy, man.
Yeah, Marcellus he's my dude. Like,
Yeah.
totally revolutionized just how I process the training edition of like getting ready for a CFL season and staying
Yes.
healthy for it. So he was in there every morning with me that year, shooting the jugs machines balls at me and making sure that I was locked in and wasn't bailing on it. So big shout out to him in that breakout year. But it was like I was doing all the same things. Ended up recording 5 interceptions that year. Signed a 2-year contract extension. Became the full-time starter there. And just haven't really looked back since then. And just been, again, I think it's just that mindset of like I'm just not gonna quit until until they take my cleats away, remove my key card access,
Exactly.
all that sort of stuff. And then on top of that, it's just like I had that support system around me. Like my teammates believed in me, and the reason they believed in me was not because I was this all Canadian player that came from UBC, and obviously I had those accolades to back up that part of my life. But once you get to the pro level, it's starting from the top. But it was that my teammates believed and knew that I could make the plays I was going to make because they saw it every day by my actions, right? By the things that I was doing. I had 9, 8-year vets that would come up to me like, hey, we see you working, like just keep doing it. And this is before I even got my shot to really start and make an impact. So I always I think that's a big thing too, is like if you could have that belief from the people that are most close to you in that room. Obviously you have your family and stuff like that, they believe in you, but I think your teammates, your brothers, when they believe in you, it almost allows you to go to a new level of confidence wise when you're on the field, because you're like, oh, these dudes like trust me. They're not, it's not like I have to. You want to earn their respect, obviously, but it's not like I have to like earn their respect. Like they think, oh, it's just this Canadian kid that's in here. Like hopefully he doesn't give up a touchdown. It's like that's what they probably initially thought when we're in practice and stuff like that. But then when they see me make these plays in practice, translates to the game. It's like, oh, they know you're a baller. So I think that would be my thing for really anyone. It doesn't even have to be you don't even have to be at the pro level, but I think anyone at any level, it's just like you have to have that belief that you can do it, and then you have to put in the work. And it's tedious, it's monotonous, but you do it every day. Again, that payoff may not be in the first couple years, but I can promise you, if you just put in that work, it's gonna pay off, man. It's gonna pay off, and you know it too, right? Like look at how far you came, made it all the way to the pro status in the CFL, from going from Montreal to Florida to Central Michigan, like that story in and of itself. And now what you're doing with these kids in Manitoba and giving back in that way, and like you said, helping kids get scholarships. And then I think you said you're doing some agent stuff as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now with the pro experience. So basically, when I became an agent 2 years ago, I was really more like, you know what, my young bucks are in college, and the next wave is going to be coming up. So like for me, it's like it's really just helping these young guys navigate the NCAA and the youth sports so that when they come to the pros, they're already ready. And we're setting them up accordingly, not just through their contracts, but a lot of the stuff that you're doing through the branding and teaching them the whole entire game.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's what I've been focused on now, is the my sports agency called the Pro Experience, and it really just comes from the experience of myself and
Yep.
obviously the guys that I work with, Odell Willis, Shamar Chambers, and basically giving perspective, outlook in terms of all of our different aspects of our lives and how we made it to the pros. And then
Yep.
also giving the kids and the families the best opportunities and the best insight, because my way may have just worked for me. My way,
Yep.
I have formulas and systems and tactics you could use, strategies, but they
Yeah.
may not always apply to what you need at the time. So for me, I always work with other people who are just as, or even sometimes even smarter than me, and are capable of actually helping our players and our people put our kids in the best position possible.
Yep.
Because I don't believe it's just me. I only started it because exactly like you said, man. Like if you want to be the best at something, you got to apply it. And all I know is that growing up in South Florida and coming up here was, if you're going to be a Canadian kid trying to make it to the States, you got to play in the States. So I just applied myself accordingly.
Yep.
And that's pretty much where I'm at now. So now as an agent, I'm actually expanding my reach to different sports, because I've started realizing this is not just a football thing. This is an actual Canadian thing where it's
Yep.
like, if we're almost like, and I'm kind of glad basketball's gotten a lot better, where we have guys like SGA who are doing
Yep.
very well in the league, getting MVP and putting Canada on the map. But besides that, in acting or being music, like sports, like unless you play hockey, like
Yep.
it's really hard for any of our other sports outside of Canada, like football, soccer, and like the other
Yeah.
sports, to really get the recognition that we deserve. And we got lots of talented players here, lots in all different types of sports. It's just the resources and the systems that help it. So that's where my agency is coming in, and we developed a recruiting platform that's basically allows our players to go on the site, create a profile, get evaluated by a professional athlete or a
Wow.
professional scout in their actual field. So football would be myself and, like I said, my other guys. And basketball, we have some other evaluators. And so
Right.
it's going to be basically an aspect where now these players are getting evaluated by guys like ourselves. And like I said, it's a credibility stack, because when they send out their profiles and their links to these coaches, all the coaches want to know, can he play? Yep. Okay, cool. Who's he playing against? That's always the biggest one, is who's
Yeah.
he playing against? Because
Competition level.
that is going to be like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, well, this is where our assessment comes into play. We put our name on that player and actually give a true like grading scouting report. And then
Yep.
at that time, they can also get endorsed by the high school coaches. And it at least gives whoever's watching their profile next some form of context. Okay, this guy's, he's verified in terms of his height and weight. He's got endorsed by his coach, who says, okay, he sees him practice all the time, and he thinks he could actually play at the next level. He's also got evaluated by a professional athlete who identified his skill and also broke down his film. So I'm actually watching and I'm looking at it from a pro athlete standpoint. And now
Right.
we're talking from the same, IQ and football
Yeah.
awareness. And at that point, it gives them a little bit more confidence to be able to make a true assessment on these players. So that's kind of where our platform, the Pro Experience Network, is kind of helping bridge that gap. So that's kind of where, when I started this, in mid conversation, I was talking about the scouting secrets.
Yeah.
Was really more in helping families save on recruiting services, because essentially a lot of times they have to pay for these recruiting services because they go into the recruiting journey too late. They're 11th, 12th
Right.
grade trying to get a scholarship. And it's like, bro, like if you would have just known these strategies earlier,
Yep.
you would have been able to apply yourself and be able to put yourself in position. So it goes back to another question when you ask, how do they know what camps to go to? Well, that's understanding your player, and you know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, for me, it's kind of, I'm almost re-engineered all of this that we're talking about,
Yeah.
because I started realizing, wow, these are problems that are consistently happening. It doesn't matter the sport, but it's teaching parents how to become the general manager of their athletes' lives and be able to take control and be able to teach them what the coaches are looking for, instead of saying, little Johnny's so great. No, they're like, hey, little Johnny is 6'5", 280. He plays tight end. He plays tackle. He can play anywhere in the field if you need him to. He loves football. Here's his film. I recommend he watches it. He's gotten scouted and he's got evaluated by the guys from the pro experience. Boom, send that off. Those guys are gonna be like, okay, who's little Johnny from 6'8",
Yeah.
280? You know what I'm saying? Like they're
Yeah.
gonna look at that. So that's kind of where we're coming in and trying to give our parents and the people of Canada the opportunity to be able to, really showcase the talent that we have here, because it's long overdue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Kito, man, I appreciate you for coming on, and man, that did not feel like an hour of talking, but when you're talking about things that you love and things you're passionate about, it, like you said, you can go for hours on it. But appreciate everybody for listening and watching today. Kito, will leave you with one last thing. Just let everybody know if they want to get into contact with you, whether it's for agent services, Manitoba Selects, just kids training, like, your business that you're running with, the Pro Sports Network. Like, just let us know how people can get connected with you, and we'll make sure to leave a link in the bio as well. But yeah,
man. Look, it's Kito Poblah here, man. The Pro Experience. We are running Canada's top, and I'm going to say that now because I'm manifesting this right now for everybody out there, where we're going to help the most players from Canada be able to transfer into the U.S. NCAA scholarships, and even youth sports as well. We help with that in all sports. And it's going to be coming from a place where not just myself, but a whole entire network of people who've been through the process are going to help families just like you guys. So if you guys want to follow me, my personal handle is Kito Poblah. And if you want to follow the Pro Experience, it's at the proexperience.network. And you can follow us on IG, Google, wherever you need to find us, you'll be able to get us there. So, hey, man, I really appreciate you, chopping it up with you today.
Likewise.
And like always, I got to go out with my little thing, hard work beats
talent. There it is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You love to hear it. Appreciate you coming on today, my man.